Dennis Wilder is a senior fellow at the Georgetown University Initiative for U.S. China Dialogue on Global Issues. And I asked him how Branstad's appointment can help improve Beijing-Washington ties.
Well, I think things have moved forward, certainly since the visit of Xi Jinping to Mar-a-Lago. If you had asked me a few months ago where we would be on U.S.-China relations at this point, I probably would have said in a much worse place than we are today. There are now 4 new high-level dialogues that have been created. As you mentioned, Governor Branstad, now Ambassador Branstad, is a great choice. He's exactly the kind of person that you want to have in Beijing. I remember when Sandy Rant was the ambassador for George Bush and I was at the White House. We found having a personal friend of the president, a person who can pick up the phone and call the president at any time and really communicate with the president without having to go through a lot of the bureaucracy, to be very useful. So I think Governor Branstad's new role is both an important one and also one that he will fulfill very well.
That being said, how important is the role of a U.S. ambassador to China when it comes to setting policy, setting the tone for the relationship?
Well, first of all, Governor Branstad has a huge amount of experience dealing with China. After all, he first met Xi Jinping about 1985. So he knows China, he knows trading relationship with the Chinese. So he can be a very good counselor to the president and to the cabinet members on the relationship. He can explain how to negotiate with China, what China's concerns are, but also he's a very, very good advocate for American products. He's sold billions of dollars worth of agricultural goods from his home state to the Chinese.
You mentioned trade. You know, one of Trump's major issues with the Chinese have been over trade, also the DPRK, and to a lesser extent, the South China Sea. Do you think Trump has made any headway or had any influence on the Chinese over some of these issues?
Absolutely. I think we are closer together today on the North Korean issue than we have been perhaps at any time. The Chinese have been putting some pressure on North Korea to come back to the negotiating table. I think people who wonder why it hasn't worked yet don't understand the North Koreans. This is going to take a little time. This is not a problem that President Trump and President Xi are going to find a way to solve overnight. But they both feel that the situation is dangerous. They both feel that denuclearizing the peninsula is the right thing to do. I think that we will see progress in this area. After all, I'm encouraged by the fact that North Korea didn't have its 6th nuclear test. And I think I give China some credit for making it clear to the North Koreans not to move forward in that area.
What about when it comes to climate change? The United States is perhaps expected to pull out of the Paris Climate Agreement. How could that change the relationship?
I am quite disturbed with the idea that we will leave the climate change agreement. This was hard fought. I think that on both sides there was goodwill, there was hard work to get this agreement, and in fact, without the U.S.-China agreement, the Paris Accord would not have been possible. Now, unfortunately, for whatever reasons, the Trump administration has decided, perhaps, we don't know yet, but they may backtrack from some of the Paris Accord. I think that is a step in the wrong direction, and I'm very much hoping that even if they do step back, they will reconsider that decision at some point down the line.